Welcome to another episode of Delay the Decay. Today's episode is a special World Cup conversation with Blake Aerni, the voice of Sporting Kansas City and a storyteller who helps Americans understand and enjoy the beautiful game of soccer. I wanted to have this conversation because soccer is more than just a game. At its best, it creates joy, community, shared memories, and connection across cultures, families, cities, and nations. And during the World Cup, we get to see that on a global scale. As the World Cup captures the attention of people who may not normally follow soccer, this conversation with Blake is meant to help new and old fans know what they're watching, why it matters, and why so many people around the world love this sport so deeply. Blake's own story is a great one. His path into broadcasting grew out of a deep love for soccer, a gift for performance, and years of calling games, podcasting, studying Major League Soccer, and learning how to tell the stories behind the match. Today we're going to talk about the beauty of soccer, the growth of the game in America, the rise of Major League Soccer in America, and what makes Kansas City such a special soccer city, and what the World Cup moment could mean for the future of American soccer. We're also going to talk about the 2026 men's national team and what makes this group so unique and why they have captured the imagination of so many American fans. Blake, it's great to have you on Delay the Decay. Thanks for joining me, my friend.
So excited to be here. I love talking all things soccer.
Right on. Last night we are actually speaking the day after the men advanced from the round of 32 to the round of 16. And it was a result of a gritty 2-0 win against Bosnia, playing the final third of the game without their star striker, who received a controversial red card. So I want to ask you this just to start off the show. We were with my family last night, all three of my kids, their spouses, my 10 grandkids.
No way.
And we were in the basement. And it was chaos. And when we saw that foul, it probably broke the other guy's ankle. I haven't actually heard the result, but it didn't seem like it should have been a red card. But maybe that's a conversation for another time. But what's one thing the men's U.S. team needs to execute on in order to beat Belgium in the round of 16 and advance to the round of 8?
I think I saw something different from this team in that game against Bosnia. It was a time where they went up 1-0, something we've seen them do a lot this year, where they are able to get ahead and hold that lead. But it was the way that they suffered together. I talked a lot about that prior to this World Cup, something we haven't seen from the United States men's national team in previous cycles, or even in this cycle, that they need to be able to suffer together. Like that term kind of sounds daunting. You think of suffering, and it's in soccer, that is the term to say we need to be able to invite pressure, defend as a unit, and then go forward together when we get our chances. And I think that's something we saw when they were up 1-0 against Bosnia, went down to 10 men. You really can't do anything other than just suffer in that moment and work together as a back line, as a unit. They did that really well. And to beat the top teams, you have to be able to do that, because you may not have a lead ever in the game until, you may not have a lead ever, and you might have to eke it out into penalty kicks and win that way. But the way this team has defended, I think that if they can execute on the defensive side of the ball, they're going to keep making some headlines.
Yeah. I read something this morning about, is it Ream, the outside
Ream,
back?
Yep.
Yeah, 39 years old.
Yep.
Yeah, that he's a little bit slower, didn't have a great first half of the season in the MLS. But from my perspective as a fan, he's killing it out there. Why the controversy on him?
Yeah, it's funny. I think the narrative has shifted drastically on Tim Ream in this World Cup, because coming into the World Cup, there was a lot of people who were saying, really, we're rolling out Tim Ream in 2026, a guy that's 39 years old. He played a lot of his career in the Premier League, and now he's in MLS, and I think people are saying, okay, he took a step back. Clearly he's not the same level he once was. But it's shown game after game. The games that he's not playing, the back line isn't as well organized, as well put together as when he is playing. And you're right. I mean, he's not as fast as he once was. He can't move quite as quickly, but he's found a way to position himself and always know where to be and be the leading presence in that back line. I kind of like the way the narrative has shifted because he is one of the most valuable players they have right now.
And he's the captain, right?
Yep, he is.
That's so cool. Yeah, there's so much I want to talk about, and I'm a novice. I'm a novice fan. My sons and my son-in-law, they all got a favorite Champions League team, and they know the players. And like, I just know Champions League is somewhere on the other side of the ocean. But we really are a family who loves soccer. I want to just go back to something you said about the grit of this team, that they suffer together. And that is really compelling. I've never heard a sports team described that way, and it really is a metaphor for life. That when we face difficulties that come our way, we can either fold or we can stand strong. And the U.S. team, when they were down a man, what minute was that? Do you remember?
I think it was like right around the 60th minute. I want to say maybe 63rd. So yeah, about 2/3 into the game.
That sounds right, because I knew I was rooting for the water break to come, the hydration break to come soon, so they could regroup a little bit.
Yep.
But they played basically the final third of the game down a man. And for you people that may not be soccer fans, but you're hockey fans, think about playing a third of a hockey game, a power play that lasts a third of the entire hockey game. That's the equivalent.
Yeah. It's unbelievable to see. Not only did they suffer well, like we talked about, but then they went and scored a goal with 10 men. I mean, that just doesn't happen very often.
No. How do you get the ball over a line like that and get it over and then back down into the goal?
That every time commentators see the foul happen right outside the box, the first thing you'll hear if you watch a lot of soccer is, "Oh, it's really hard to get this up and over the wall and back down in time." And I mean, it was one of the best free kicks I've seen from a U.S. player ever.
Unbelievable. Why did they pick him for that kick? Is he known to be a good penalty kicker?
I don't think I've seen enough from the team to know who would know. I mean, Christian Pulisic tends to be the guy that takes free kicks like that, or Weston McKennie's a pretty well-known name as well. But sometimes some guys, it's just their thing. In training, they're always hitting those. I think Malik Tillman is the kind of player that he probably has worked on that for a long time in his career. And the moment came up, and he said, call on me. I'm gonna take this one. And he called his own number, and it worked.
Mm-hmm. I can almost feel the interest in the U.S. growing for soccer after each game. For someone who's being drawn into soccer, maybe for the very first time, because of the World Cup, how would you explain the beauty of the game?
It's a really good question, because it is the beautiful game. I mean, that's what it's been referred to as for as long as I've known the soccer in this country, across the world. It's the beautiful game. If you don't want to argue about what to call it, you can call it that. And so I love the fact that it promotes individual brilliance the way that it does, because you look at players like Messi, or even the way that Pulisic has played for the United States. Obviously, he's not the level of Lionel Messi, but the way he plays the game, or the way Messi plays the game, or Neymar, a player for Brazil, that play the way they play the game is just it truly is beautiful when you watch them dribbling the ball past defenders, doing a couple of skill moves to work around players. I just think that soccer it's so unique in the sense that it promotes that individual brilliance. You look at a sport like football in the United States, and it's hard for one player to have as much of an impact unless they play the quarterback position, because they touch the ball every time. Whereas in soccer, everyone can touch the ball at any point of time in the game. So it's just a really unique sport in that sense. But I think the reason it truly is the beautiful game is how fluid the movement is. Everything, there's no stoppages, there's no timeouts. Well, I mean, I guess now there might be a little makeshift timeout with the hydration breaks that we talked about, but there's no way to stop the game if you aren't in a position or if you're in a position you don't like. You can't just call timeout. You can't just get your guys over on the sideline, talk to them for a minute, and throw them back out there. You have to learn how, when you're in unfortunate situations, to get out of them and get back into a spot that you like where you're at. I mean, it's just so fluid, and you talk, whenever I talk to my American friends who don't know much about soccer, they ask like, oh, are there plays that they run? And I would say the answer to that is yes, on corner kicks or free kicks and such stuff like that. But you can't predict what the team's going to do after that set play. So as soon as the other team goes the other way, now you have a general idea for what you want to do as a team, but it's just so fluid, and then it becomes decision making, and that's where the players' individual brilliance gets shown. And I just think that's the beauty of it. It's an art.
That's amazing. How many guys are on a roster on a World Cup?
So there's
team?
26 on a World Cup roster.
26 on a World Cup roster, and of the 26 on this year's roster, do you know how many of them were on the 2022 roster?
I want to say it's probably in the 15 range, probably
Okay.
like more than half. I feel like more than half the players on this year's roster were on last World Cup's roster.
Interesting. And they only train together, as my understanding, like less than a month before the World Cup starts, because they're all playing in these different leagues.
Yeah, so they're each, I would say once every couple months, they'll have what they call an international break, and all the leagues will take 1 week off so that they can play 1 or 2 games with their national teams. And so they'll bring players in for stuff like that. But yeah, I mean, you're getting probably 10 trainings and a couple games in every couple months. So it's, you really don't get all that much time. And then like you said, you only really get a month before the World Cup to have everyone in the same camp, that is going to be on that roster, because prior to that, you're just bringing in guys that you think might be in the roster. But until about that month before, that's when the 26 and they get to train together.
Yeah. The reason I asked that is I made a comment last night when we were watching the game that these guys seem to know each other. Like,
yeah,
they're, as you said, there's not necessarily plays in the fluidity of the game, but they just seem to know when the other guys, when it's time to do the give and go or to kick the ball down the field. They just know each other.
Yeah, and I think a big part of that is probably the fact that most of these guys grew up playing together. A lot of them grew up a couple of them played in Germany growing up, and they played together, but a lot of them came up through American academies, and they played on the youth national teams together. And they, you see pictures of Christian Pulisic and Weston McKennie at like 15 years old playing together. And so, you play with a guy that long, even if it's just every once in a while, and you're watching their careers, I'm sure they watch each other play throughout the season, and you get to know each other better. You become friends. I think that over time, you kind of start to build that chemistry. I think that's the biggest word that's used in sports is chemistry, right? And I think this U.S. team, because they've had so much time to they're kind of this, I don't like the term, but people have dubbed them the golden generation, which I think puts too much pressure on them, because ultimately at the end of the day, there's going to be other good generations of soccer in the United States because we love sports in this country. But I think that this is the best generation of soccer players we've had, and they all have kind of known that together growing up, and so they have played together for so long, they just have that chemistry.
Gotcha. Yeah. Let's talk about the sport in comparison to other sports that people might be more familiar with. Why is World Cup unique compared to other sporting events, i.e. the Super Bowl, the World Series, the National Hockey League championships? What makes the World Cup so unique?
I mean, it's national pride. Everyone wants to root for their country. If you look at, the Olympics, people will get behind curling. I become a big curling fan in the Winter Olympics. I just feel like any time you get the chance to root for your country, people are all over that. And I think, mix that with the fact that soccer is also the most played and most enjoyed sport across the world. It is the perfect opportunity for everyone across the world to get together and watch games and enjoy these matches together, because I think the world needs, we've seen it during this World Cup, the world needs more community, more time, more opportunities to get together, to be with one another, and to have conversations that aren't trying to stir up anything. It's just, let's both enjoy this thing that we enjoy together. And so given the opportunity to do that, to root for a common goal, you go into any bar during the U.S. men's national team games during this World Cup, and if you have a U.S. jersey on, you've got hundreds of friends in that bar. So it doesn't take much. And, I think everyone's looking for community like that. And the World Cup just provides the perfect opportunity to do that. So I think ultimately that's why it's the biggest spectacle in the world.
Yeah. And speak about the biggest spectacle. I'm kind of I'm a math nerd. And I flew out to Kansas City, and we saw the Ecuador Curacao game. Mm-hmm. And I don't know anything about either of those teams. I mean, I could barely find them on the map. In fact, I couldn't find Curacao on the map. I had to actually pull out the map. But when we arrived there, I got chills walking into Kansas City Stadium. That's what it's called for the World Cup. And seeing just the sea of yellow for Ecuador and some patches of blue for Curacao, and to hear the chants and the songs, and I think 76,000 people. It wasn't the U.S. playing, by the way. It was in Kansas City, two countries that most of the people in Kansas City, like me, didn't know where they were at. And that is happening 104 times. From group play to finals, including the third place game, there's 104 games that are packing stadiums with 70 to, what's the largest stadium? 80, 90,000?
Yeah, 80, 90,000, yeah.
Yeah. The Super Bowl's one game. This is 104 times.
Yep.
And they're selling them out.
I think that's what's been so interesting about it is, it was pitched while they were talking about the World Cup in the United States that this is going to be like 104 Super Bowls. And I think everyone hears that and they're like, you know what? Maybe, I'm not so sure that it can live up to what the Super Bowl is. But I think after what you just said and what everyone has seen, they've realized maybe this is bigger than 104 Super Bowls. Each game brings together. I mean, the Super Bowl has crazy fans and it has a lot of cool environments, but those environments, they pale in comparison to what it's like being at a national team game in the biggest stage like the World Cup. I mean, you talk about that Ecuador-Curacao game. I mean, how many times did you hear the Ecuador fans all the way across the stadium? No one prompted them. It was just they all started chanting the same thing to urge their team on. It's the most unique experience in sports. You're never going to be able to replicate something like that. So I think it's even unfair to compare it to the Super Bowl because it's just not the same.
It's not the same. Yeah. Just Curacao, for the listeners that were like me, where is Curacao? Who are they? It's a small country of 158,000 people.
Yeah.
That I live in northern Colorado, and there's 3 different cities up here that have more than 158,000 people. And when they tied Ecuador, you would have thought that they won the World Cup. It was a victory, right? And Ecuador, you would have thought that they failed miserably because one was favored so heavily. It was so much fun. I would encourage anybody. There's still games left. You could buy tickets. Probably going to be $3,000-$4,000 at this point, but you can still buy tickets, right? Well, let's do it. So let's talk about you just for a little bit.
Sure.
I probably should have done that at the beginning, but your path to broadcasting started with a love for soccer. But it also involved theater and choir, broadcasting classes, college play-by-play, podcasting. You had a podcast. You call yourself a soccer nerd. You had a podcast just about soccer. And then eventually, here you are at age 25 as the announcer for Sporting KC. How did that journey, Blake, shape the way that you see the game?
Yeah, I think that's a really good question because ultimately the way my story kind of played out was that I always give the credit to my mom growing up because she just saw something in me, this performance aspect, this desire for expressing myself in some way. She saw it in me because I did, like you said, choir growing up. I did theater growing up. And I loved sports. I mean, I was always the kid that was watching Sports Center every morning. And before I'd go to school, I'd have the top 10 on. And that was my favorite time of the day. It was at the end of the hour, they'd play the Sports Center top 10. And so I'd know what the top 10 plays from that day or the past day were. And so that was always just my upbringing was the sports, and then there was performance. And so when I got to high school, I did some broadcasting classes, mostly because my mom kind of urged me on to do those. And it's funny how it all started that way, but ultimately it turned into a passion. Like, it was kind of me getting pushed to do something that she thought I might like. But then ultimately, once I started doing more of the broadcasting classes in college and calling games for the University of Nebraska on the radio station or on Big Ten Plus, which is like the student-run network that we had there, calling soccer games, it turned into this passion for soccer. Or I already had the passion for soccer from growing up playing the game, but it turned into this passion for broadcasting, which ultimately I think came from my passion for telling people stories, because that to me is what makes sports so compelling. Is you have all of these incredible athletes and they play for your favorite teams and they create this sense of community, but all of these athletes have a story of their own. They have something that was challenging as they were trying to get to where they were trying to go, or they had something that maybe held them back. They had something that gave them a breakthrough. Whatever it was, they had something that got them to the point to where they are today. If they're a professional, if they're a collegiate athlete, whoever it is, they've got some story. And I think that is not only the job of the broadcaster, but I think it is required from the broadcaster to be able to know those stories and to share those with the world, because no one else is going to do it. You know, I mean, the journalists will when they're writing, but the way that the World Cup I think of the World Cup because I've heard so many great stories from the World Cup, but the way that any sporting event is consumed by most people, it's through the television screen. And so the broadcaster has the opportunity then to tell the stories of the players, of the coaches, of the team. Sometimes, you know, that's the story there is you talk about the U.S. and the way that team has come together. I think that's just the coolest part about broadcasting. And so, as I grew up and was in college doing an MLS podcast for, 150, 200 episodes with my buddy, not really knowing what we were doing. We just wanted to talk about Major League Soccer. I think that's where I realized, okay, this storytelling aspect of broadcasting is what I really love. Of course, I love the sports. It's so cool to get to go to these sporting events and to get to work with some of these athletes, and all those things are awesome. But the storytelling, I think, is what draws me back and what makes me always searching for the next thing. Like, okay, what is the next story that I can tell? Who are the people that I need to get to know to understand these stories? It's just a really, really cool aspect of the job.
Do you feel like that's common in broadcasting, that most broadcasters see themselves as storytellers, or are they more statisticians, play-by-play kind of people?
I think because technically my job is the play-by-play broadcaster, so I'm supposed to direct you through the broadcast, what's happening on the field. I think a lot of broadcasters see themselves kind of as narrators, and I guess that can be taken in whatever way you want, because I think a great narrator is a great storyteller. And so ultimately, to me, I will always see myself as a storyteller. I'm trying to paint the picture of what is happening in front of you. And if it's on TV, obviously, I don't need to paint the picture as much as I do for my job with Sporting KC, where I'm, the radio broadcaster. There, I'm trying to visualize what you can't see so that you can understand it in your head and try and paint that picture. But when it's on TV, you're trying to paint a different picture, whether it's understanding at a deeper level why what on the field is happening is going on the field. So I think that, probably not every broadcaster sees themselves as that, but in my eyes, they all should, because you're narrating the game. And I think as a narrator, it's your job to tell some sort of story, whether it's about the players, about the team, or even just the stakes of the game, whatever it may be. There's always stories to be told about soccer games or any sport games.
I love that. When you told me that, I think I asked you something about statistics. And you said, I'm really I know the stats, but I'm really a storyteller. And that really drew me to you, actually, because I think when we tell stories, we bring out the human element of the person. I interviewed a guy a couple months ago by the name of Dayton Moore. You know Dayton?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, so Dayton was a guest on my podcast, and such a class act. And he said that what he learned to do over time is to not see the players just as hitters, pitchers, position players, but to see them as someone's son, someone's brother, someone's husband, type of thing, to really see the human aspect of that. In order to see them that way and treat them that way, you need to know their story. So I really, there's just something really powerful in that, Blake, not just it's not just what makes you a great broadcaster, but my guess is it makes you a great human being as well. So thanks.
Hey, I appreciate that. And Dayton Moore as a Kansas City, and he brought some great years to Kansas City. Some of my favorite memories in sports are because of those Royals teams.
Yeah, 14 and 15, right? Were the 2 years
14 and 15. Someone was just asking me because the Dutch national team came through Kansas City and brought their army of orange jerseys in the Kansas City area, and it was incredible seeing the march that they had downtown. And someone said, "What was better, the Royals parade, the Chiefs parade, or the orange march?" And I was like, I still think it was that 2015 Royals parade because Kansas City had never been able to all get together and experience something like that. It was 30 years for the Royals, and the Chiefs hadn't done anything to that point, as exciting as what they're doing right now. Sporting had won a title, but it didn't necessarily bring the city together the way the Royals did. So it was just that was a special moment in the city. Very
fun. Hey, I'm going to put you on the spot talking about stories. Think about a soccer story, an American soccer story that is really compelling. Could be a team, could be a player. What's a story that has really marked you over the years?
Oh man, that's a tough question because I think a current story that I think is really interesting is the story of Fuller and Balogun, the guy who got sent off in this last game for the United States. He grew up most of his life in England, but his mom came to the United States. I believe it was just on vacation while she was over here. She was like 8 months pregnant at the time, wanted to fly back to England, but I guess some flight attendant or someone before she got on the flight said, "You're too pregnant. We don't feel comfortable with you flying on the plane." That's why Fuller and Balogun was born in the United States, has U.S. citizenship, and that's why he's able to play for the United States men's national team. He talks about how he feels proud to wear the badge. He feels proud to be born in the United States and be an American citizen. And I just think that, to me, that's what makes the United States so incredible, is all of the different cultures that we have here in the U.S. and all the different types of people that are in this country. And he's a great example of that. And it's been so cool to see those cultures from across the world come to the U.S. and experience how the U.S. culture is as beautiful as it is and all the great people that are in the United States. And so, Balogun's just the perfect example of that. I don't think he should have been shown that red card like we were talking about, but that's another day. I can get into that story. But he's just a very interesting story. And I think Kansas City has some good stories, but yeah, that's kind of what comes to my mind right now.
I love it. I didn't know that. Thanks for sharing that. How about maybe a story that should be more well known than it is, and I'm not even fully aware, but how about the whole Beckham story? Coming from England,
yeah,
to the U.S. playing. Talk us through that story a little bit about what you know about Beckham and like how that played out and how he ended up being owner of Miami and that whole deal.
Yes, that's an incredible story. You talk about David Beckham. He's got an interesting story too, because there was a documentary. I think it's on Netflix. It's maybe just called Beckham, and definitely worth the watch if you are a soccer fan or just a sports fan that's interested in that at all. But he came to the United States because he was kind of at a point in his career where I think he was a little, I don't know what, he probably wasn't fully settled in England because there was a lot kind of going on. People had been mad at, because he actually was shown a red card in a big World Cup game that ended up getting them knocked out. And he took a lot of the blame. And I don't think that he necessarily ever lived that down from fans in England. And so I think he kind of went in a phase in his career where he's like, I need to go do something else. I can't just be playing in England. He's always been one of the players that's in the spotlight. He's always been right in the middle of everything because, one, he's extremely talented, and two, he doesn't shy away from it. He was always cutting his hair or changing his look, doing something different because I think he liked it. I think he's a good-looking guy, and a lot of there was always the paparazzi around him for that reason, because I think he did some modeling as well. And, he's just one of those guys that wasn't afraid of a little bit of spotlight. And so he came to the United States because later in his career because he wanted a little bit of a change, and he knew Major League Soccer was kind of on the rise. And I'm sure part of it, was the fact that he knew he could come to the United States and get a bit of that audience from the U.S. market, which is such a big market. Obviously, I think it makes all the other markets look a lot smaller because the LA market and the New York market are just so large. And so he goes to the LA Galaxy and was a fantastic player for them, won some trophies with the LA Galaxy. And part of that deal was that he was then given the rights to be an owner of one of the next teams in Major League Soccer after he retired in his career. So he wasn't given the stake in the team, but he was given the opportunity. If he wanted to buy a team, he'd be the first person that they would ask. And so Inter Miami were the team that ended up coming about, that he was interested in and wanted to be in a market like Miami, because that's another market that has so much international draw. I think that the Hispanic draw to Miami is huge, and he saw that. He was able to bring in Lionel Messi, and I mean, that's just been one of the best parts about Major League Soccer in recent years, has been having, in my opinion, the greatest player ever to play the game, playing right here in our country.
Yeah, and having a massive impact on the MLS, isn't he?
Mm-hmm. And I think it's gonna trickle year after year. You're gonna see more and more fans that say, you know what, I got into soccer because I wanted to watch Messi in this country, and I stayed because, you know what, I actually really like this sport.
Mm-hmm. Is the Champions League the best league in soccer worldwide?
Yeah, so Champions League is like the tournament that all the top European teams play in, and that's, I mean, you does not get better than that.
Will there be a time, speaking about stories, will there be a story in the next 5 years where a young player, one of the best players in the world from America chooses to play in the MLS rather than going to Europe? Do you see that kind of story unfolding?
I certainly hope so. I mean, that to me, the point that American soccer can say we have made it as I say footballing nation, soccer nation, the way we'll know is when a young American player, or I would say a player that is at the top of their game, decides I'm not going to go to Europe and I'm going to stay and play in Major League Soccer, because that means that there is top quality here and it means something to them to be playing here in the United States. Because right now, if you are a top American player, you're going to play in this league for a little bit, or maybe not even a little bit, and you're going to go play in Europe because that's where the best soccer is. And you can't fault any player for doing that, because I think that's what everyone wants, is to compete at the highest level. But I think that we're getting closer to that. I don't know about 5 years, but maybe 10, 15, 20 years, we might start to see some of those American players sticking around. I'm really curious to see the trickle-down effects from this World Cup, what kind of effects it has on this league in terms of Major League Soccer, and how young players perceive the game of soccer. Because I think that for a long time in the United States, soccer wasn't looked at as one of the top sports, and now you just can't ignore that it's going to be.
Yeah. I've been curious recently. I heard that I think it was 1930 was the U.S.'s best showing in the World Cup. I think it was 1930. I think
they got third place that year.
Third place that year.
Yep.
And I took a look at when American football, American basketball, when they kind of started taking off, and it was give or take 10 years on either side of that. And I feel like a lot of the best athletes started going to those other sports.
Yep.
But it's not the case anymore. We're getting some of our best athletes that are choosing in high school to play soccer rather than football. And that's what it's going to take, I think, isn't it?
Yeah, absolutely. Because if soccer meant as much, I know this is a contentious argument depending on who you ask in terms of the Europeans or the South Americans. If you say, if the best athletes in the United States were playing soccer, I truly believe we would be one of the best, if not the best countries in terms of soccer, because it would mean all of the attention would be on soccer as the top sport. We have some of the smartest and sharpest sports minds in the world that would be able to lead the team in terms of tactics and all those kinds of things. But that's just not the case in the United States, so you kind of have to understand it. But as you just said, I think we're getting closer to that. I think more people are starting to take it seriously. I think athletes like Christian Pulisic and like Fuller and Balogun, being one, as talented as they are, and two, as good of, I would say, role models and leaders as they have been to this point. Obviously, you just never know what's going to happen in the future, but to this point, it feels like they are cool to a lot of the young athletes. They look at those guys and, they see LeBron James doing what he did in the 2010s and even 2000s. They see what Kobe was doing. They see, Patrick Mahomes being that cool guy, and now you've got Fuller and Balogun, Christian Pulisic, Weston McKennie, all these U.S. stars that are cool. kids don't really know the intricacies of sports yet. They'll learn someday, but what they want is to be cool like their favorite athletes. And I think that these guys are a great example of that.
That's so good. Yeah. Yesterday in our little family gathering watching the game, I had my 11-year-old grandson showed up with a Messi shirt on, pink socks, pink shoes.
Yep.
And I had another grandson with a Charlotte jersey on. Joey smacked him. And another grandson with a Sporting. It's like,
nice.
Kids are wearing that stuff.
Exactly.
It's really exciting. Yeah. Well, you're in Kansas City. And Kansas City is in the Midwest. People don't think about Kansas City as a destination for many things, even though I love Kansas City. With my son Joey living there, we've been able to explore it with the Negro Baseball Hall of Fame, with the World War Museum. There's so much to do. The Chiefs, the Royals, Sporting KC. But Kansas City is considered the soccer capital of America.
Oh, yeah. Yes, we are.
Come on. One of the greatest soccer cities in America. What makes Kansas City's soccer culture different?
I mean, it sounds so cheesy because this is what every Kansas Citian will say they love about the city, and it's truly the people. Like, it is absolutely the fact that people in Kansas City love to show up for their teams. And soccer has been adopted early on. We were one of the first original 10 Major League Soccer teams. The Kansas City Wiz at the time is what they were. Then they turned into the Wizards, and now it's Sporting KC. And so people in Kansas City early on decided, you know what? We have professional football. They're great professional football, or they're great Chiefs fans. Kansas City shows up for their team. They show up for the Royals, especially in the years when the Royals were competing at the highest level. The fans were showing up for that. And when they got professional soccer, now there's professional soccer on the women's side as well with the KC Current. The fans just show up, and they love to show up for their teams. I think a lot of that history does go back deep into, like you were talking about, the 30s and the 40s and 50s in terms of U.S. soccer history, and Kansas City plays into that a little bit. St. Louis has a very historic soccer scene as well, but I think in the more modern history, Kansas City has proven time and time again that it's always going to show up for soccer. I mean, you look at the Power and Light District right now, those videos are kind of surfacing and going around on social media. The amount of people, thousands of people showing up at Power and Light to watch these games. They kind of were put on the map in that 2014 World Cup in terms of those watch parties. I think that because Matt Beasler and Graham Zusi, who, for those that are listening, may not know who those are two Kansas City soccer legends. They both played for Sporting KC, and they played for the U.S. men's national team in that 2014 World Cup. So I think there's a lot of civic pride in Kansas City, partially because, like you said, it's overlooked a lot. I think a lot of people in Kansas City are proud to be from here, and they see the New Yorks, and they see the Dallas and LA, Chicago, whatever, and they go, you know what? I think we deserve to be, maybe not at that level, but at least in the conversation with some of those top cities in the world. And so Kansas Cityans almost have that chip on their shoulder. And I think that that's part of the reason that they've adopted soccer so much, is because they say, we love this and we're going to love it better than you love it. We're going to show our passion for the game of soccer and for the United States men's national team and for our teams here in Kansas City. And again, every single week we see it with Sporting KC and the KC Current, but now it's just on the global stage.
Yeah, I love it. 48 teams in the World Cup tournament. Every one of those teams has a city and a facility that they are training at.
Yep.
And how many of those teams are training in and around Kansas City?
It's kind of unbelievable. 4 teams decided to pick Kansas City. 3 picked the KC metro area. 1, I guess you can consider it the metro area, chose Lawrence, Kansas, which is, about 35. Well, if you go from downtown Kansas City, it's about an hour outside downtown Kansas City. But 4 of the 48 teams chose Kansas City.
And which 4 teams are those?
So it was Algeria was the team in Lawrence, Kansas, and they're just wrapping up as they're going into the knockout rounds. And England chose Overland Park, which it's Meadowbrook Park, which is like a nice little park over down south of Kansas City. The Netherlands are at the KC Currents training facility, which is top of the top training facility. And then, of course, the world champions Argentina are staying at Sporting KC's training facility, which, in my opinion, is the best in the United States. It is on par with any of the top places in the U.S.
So two of the top four teams,
Yep.
Argentina and England, chose Kansas City. Netherlands, who is out, but they were a top 10 team, chose Kansas City. That is a rubber stamp. If anybody wants to argue that Kansas City is the foremost soccer city in America, you should see these facilities. The Sporting KC facility is second to none. It's unbelievable, and the KC Current facility is for the women's team is pretty amazing as well.
Exactly. Yeah. So Argentina's at the main training facility for Sporting KC. England is at the second team's training facility, which just tells you the fact that England decided to go to Sporting KC's second team training facility, that the facilities all around Sporting KC are great. And yeah, you talk about the Current, theirs being one of the best. Virgil van Dijk, who's the captain for the Netherlands, he made some comment early on saying, "I hope all the pitches around the United States are like this one," when he was referring to the KC Current's pitch. So I mean, it doesn't get much better than praise from one of the best defenders ever.
No, it doesn't. Hey, we're all over the place, but I think my audience is going to be interested in all of this. These are mostly football stadiums in the U.S. There's soccer stadiums in Mexico that have been retrofitted for the game of soccer. What are some of the changes that they've had to make in these stadiums for the World Cup?
Yeah, I'd say most of the stadiums were ready to go in terms of the sizing of the stadium. I think there's a handful, including Kansas City, that had to move some seats around and get rid of, I think Kansas City got rid of about 2,000 or 3,000 seats so that they could fit the width of a soccer field, as well as having enough space off both sides of the pitch to fit everything. But the biggest change for every stadium is that they have to have a specific type of grass. FIFA is very, very strict about the type of grass that you have to use. Not only that you have to have natural grass, but you also have to have a certain amount of whatever it is, sand, soil type of thing, 6 feet or however many feet below the grass as well, so that it's fit for these players to be in their best condition throughout the entirety of the tournament. And I mean, if you have been on one of these soccer fields at a professional soccer stadium in the United States, I'm sure you've checked out Kansas City and Sporting KC's training facilities, all that. The fields are immaculate. It's incredible. And so I know there's been a lot of jokes going around in terms of the NFL players talking, hey, they've already done this for FIFA, so clearly the owners are willing to do this. Why can't we keep this beautiful grass for our fields? Because I know that a lot of the players talk about it's better, it helps keep injuries away and all those kinds of things. And so I think this might spark a little something in the NFL world as well.
Yeah, they've had to rip out artificial turf and then do what you just described. That's crazy. And soccer fields are quite a bit bigger. The pitch for a soccer is quite a bit bigger than an American football field.
Yeah, it's about, if you look at a soccer or a football field, it's about from the back of one end zone to the back of the other. So about 120 yards. I know FIFA has a very strict, I can't remember the exact dimensions, but they have a dimensions that every field has to be. But then the width is what is a huge difference from football. It's probably almost double the width.
Yeah, very good. Well, let's circle back now to we've talked World Cup. Let's talk about the U.S. men's team. We talked a little bit about them in the beginning, and you would use the phrase to describe them, the golden generation.
Yep.
What does that just mean? The best soccer generation ever, or does it have other?
I would say so. Yeah, I think that they've kind of been dubbed the golden generation because the U.S. is historically such a sports nation. It's a country that always gets great athletes in every sport, but soccer, it hadn't necessarily done that to this point. 2014 is kind of the year I look back to as the best year. And the reason I would say it was kind of deemed the golden generation is because you had Christian Pulisic, Weston McKennie. I think of Tyler Adams as another player that's on this team right now for the U.S. Balogun wasn't as known because he wasn't officially a part of the U.S. System at that point because he hadn't chosen the United States. He was still available through England. But all of those players were playing in Europe. They were playing for some of the top teams in Europe, and they were looked at as exciting young players at those top teams in Europe. It wasn't just like they were playing in Major League Soccer and we knew about them, but they didn't. It's like the whole world knew about these players, and now they're playing at the top level. You know, Christian Pulisic has won the Champions League with Chelsea. And so these are guys who are, were going to be, and they were expected to be, and ended up being some of the top players at those teams in Europe. And so, when you look at that, I think everyone kind of saw it coming, that these guys were going to be good. And so that was why it was deemed the golden generation. But then I think on top of that, once people found out that the United States was hosting the World Cup, they were like, this just seems like the perfect time for this team to be good. We're going to call them the golden generation.
Got it. Yeah. Do we have a chance to
win it?
Yeah.
I mean, I would say if there is a team that you have to pick that isn't France or Argentina or England, I think that the United States would be a fun team to make a serious run in this tournament. Can we beat France or Spain, who is obviously one of the top teams right now as well? I'm not sure we can. I think on any given day, if we play our absolute best and they don't necessarily show up, yeah, we can beat them for sure. But it's going to take a lot of good fortune from the United States to be on their best, top of their game, and the other nations to maybe not be quite as much at the top of their game. Someone asked me this the other day. They were like, one word, Blake, yes or no, can the U.S. win the World Cup? And my answer is yes, because I have seen crazy things in sports. And if the U.S. hockey team years ago taught me anything, it's I believe in miracles.
Yes, I love it. I believe in miracles. Preach it. Man. Yeah, American soccer today, this is having a massive impact on it. What would you like to share with the audience just about soccer, the World Cup, anything that we may not know that would draw us even closer to the game? Maybe for the first time we watched a game. It's like, wow, those are good athletes. Look at the people in the crowd. Like, draw me in. Make me want to watch Monday night's game against Belgium. Yeah,
I would say the biggest thing is this is an international game. You watch the Chiefs, I think of Kansas Cityans. You watch the Chiefs on any given weekend, and you have your sense of community with your people in Kansas City. And that is what makes sports so unique, is that you show up, like I said, you can show up to a bar. If you're wearing the jersey of the team in the hometown, you have hundreds of friends inside that bar, or inside, if it's a watch party at a friend's house or wherever. It's a sense of community. Everyone is searching. I know, you talk about Delay the Decay. Everyone is searching for community, and I think that helps us delay the decay. It helps us as human beings. Connection is so, so important. And so I think that is the first draw. Sports does such a good job of connecting people together. But I think the reason soccer is so unique is because it connects people from all across the world. And the World Cup is the prime example of that. And so if you haven't already, like you talked about, going to a game is the coolest thing that you can do during the World Cup. But obviously games are so expensive, especially getting into the later stages. But I think there's still so many cool opportunities to get out and see the World Cup, even if you're in a city that isn't hosting it. Obviously, I'm fortunate enough to be in Kansas City, and those people are coming here. But every major city in the United States, or not even major city, has fans from Ecuador or Colombia or wherever it may be in that city. And I think if you just get out and about, and instead of watching the game at home, maybe go somewhere and watch the game where other people are going to be, or talk to other fans from somewhere else that maybe aren't a fan. And if you do get the opportunity, as I know we've talked about before, going to a Major League Soccer game, the atmosphere at soccer games is just so different than any other sport. And it's the constant chanting from, in Kansas City, it's the cauldron, because we were the Wizards, and every Wizard has their cauldron. And so that section behind the north end of the goal, or the north end of the stadium, is called the cauldron. It's the supporter section in Kansas City. And so they cheer the whole game, and the atmosphere in a soccer stadium isn't like, a football game where you've got music kind of in and out. For 45 minutes, it's just fans. It's just the cheering. It's the reactions. It's such a cool atmosphere. And I think that everyone, if they get out and experience that once, they may not be a diehard soccer fan for the rest of their life, but I think they'll go, you know what? That was worth my time. I'm glad I checked that out. Maybe I'll go again.
Yeah, I love that. Yeah, you just I'm not going to watch Monday night's game alone.
Yeah.
It's just too much fun to high five and scream.
Exactly.
I love it. Where are you going to watch Monday's game?
I will be at the Power and Light District in Kansas City, with thousands of other American fans looking up at the big screen. And hopefully, I know those videos have been going, like Fox Sports has shown some of those videos. It's just so cool that Kansas City gets recognized the way that it does. And, a lot of my colleagues and great people that I've looked up to throughout my career work at those events, and they do the hosting and all that kind of stuff. So I get to be around people that I know. And like you said, high-fiving all your friends and family during moments like that is just what makes it so special.
Yeah. Are you working? Are you just a
I'm
fan
not
there?
For this one. I have for previous games, but it's going to be nice to just be a fan for this game.
Yeah? That's great, man.
I will go full-on American fan mode for games like this.
Yeah. What's your aspirations? Are you, like, if you die being the voice of Sporting KC 30 years from now, 60 years from now, you're a young guy, happy life, or do you have other aspirations in your industry?
Yeah, it's funny because if you'd have asked Blake 5 years ago, like, what's the dream job? It's crazy to say it, but it would be the job that I have right now, working for Sporting KC as the play-by-play voice. It all just happened a lot quicker than I probably ever expected. Nate Bucati, who is the guy, one of the people that works with these watch parties, he was the play-by-play broadcaster for Sporting KC on TV, and so he did the games. I was able to reach out to him, get connected, and he essentially made up a job for me to be an intern at Sporting KC, and he got a job with a national broadcasting company. He works with Apple TV now, calling games for MLS. Ali Trost Martin, who took over the job, she now works with CBS Sports, and so I was very fortunate that the people that I look up to got really awesome jobs, but then also they were pushing me then to take the job with Sporting KC, or they were helping me along the way to take this job with Sporting KC and preparing me for this moment. And so I'm very fortunate that it all worked out for me at such a young age that I was able to take over this job. But like you said, now I think it's natural for humans to think like, okay, what's next? And I don't know that I'm necessarily at a point where I want to rush to anything new, but I think I also, definitely have a desire to be a national broadcaster and call some of these biggest games. I think I've never been one to put like hard markers on this is exactly what I want to be doing, because I also want to open myself to what, there may be a greater plan for me on things that I don't necessarily see for myself. But I think after I've seen people I know working in this field and what they've been able to achieve, I think calling it a World Cup would be something that would be on my bucket list and a career aspiration for me. And so, just being able to call games nationally is something that I really, really would look forward to and hope I can do someday.
Well, I would be shocked if that didn't happen. You care about people. You are passionate about the game, and your voice. Like, my God just
I appreciate that.
My goodness, I got both a face and I got a face for radio, and I've got a voice for I don't know what. But
people love to say that. The fact that I'm on radio, my sisters especially, they love to say like, "Oh, he's got a face for radio."
I want to shout out to your mom because
yes,
it really. I've got 3 kids that are parents of kids, and I feel like one of the hardest things for a parent is to recognize the unique way that their child is gifted and made, and to guide them that way. And it's a sweet spot of parenting. So just kudos to your mom for recognizing both your passion for sports and your ability to share stories.
Gretchen's the best. I cannot believe that she saw it in me. I that's got to be a gift as a parent. I'm sure you've known it over the years of just being able to kind of see things that your kids can't see before. It makes me excited to be a parent someday, to know that hopefully I can do something similar and be able to guide my kids in the direction that maybe they don't even know is what's right for them.
Yep. Very good. Well, last comments, last encouragement to the audience. We're headed into Monday, the round of 16. People are in all kinds of cities. Very last encouragement. Come on, give it to them.
Yeah, I think this U.S. team is the best U.S. team that we've ever had. I think there's no reason that we can't get through Belgium. If any of you are soccer fans, 2014 is a year where Belgium and the U.S. played in a round of 16 game that was one of the most dramatic and exciting games. The U.S. had a chance to win it at the very end, couldn't do so. It went to extra time. Belgium won it. This is our chance for revenge. Get out there, support the U.S. I could not be more excited for this.
Yes, and where's the game at?
This game, it's in Seattle, which is a great fan base up there.
Okay, great. And then I'll ask you another question. Round of 16. What are a couple of other games that are you can't miss? If there's people have three games next week. They got the U.S. What are the other?
You're talking. Yeah, so the round of 16. I think France is a team that you really want to be watching because they were supposed to play Germany, but now it's Paraguay. And I think that Paraguay are going to be – they're always tough to break down. It's funny the U.S. were able to do so. Germany wasn't. I think France, whether or not it's hard for them, they're always so fun to watch. And so that's going to be a good one. I can't remember. Morocco plays Canada. That game probably isn't quite as exciting maybe, but the game that I'm really looking at is Spain just came out victorious. We're yet to see who they're going to play, but that would be the game that the United States would play against. If we beat Belgium, we would probably play Spain, assuming they win that next game because they've looked really good. So I've got my eyes there.
Very good. And back to Paraguay just for a moment. They beat Germany, who is a top 4 team. Mm-hmm. The U.S. beat Paraguay. It was 4-0 until the last few minutes, and they scored. I mean, that alone just makes you want to wonder.
It makes you say this U.S. team has something different. That's what it makes me say.
I love it. Well, Blake Aerni, thank you so much. I really appreciate you taking time. I know this is a busy season for you. I wish you all the best. If some of my listeners want to follow you, are you on LinkedIn, Instagram? How can they follow you?
Blake Aerni, it's Aerni. I'm all over, LinkedIn, Instagram, it's just Blake.Aerni. On Twitter or X, as it is now, it's just Blake Aerni, one word. So I'm pretty active on all those, talking about the World Cup. I've been actually working with the host city here in Kansas City, covering all the games that are in KC. So you might see some tweets and some Instagram posts about the games here in Kansas City, as Colombia and Ghana are here in Kansas City right now. They'll play on Friday.
Fun. Are you going?
I will be there. Yeah,
nice.
It's gonna be pretty sweet.
That's great.
The Colombian fans I've heard are pretty great.
Are they? Yeah, that's great. Well, hey, listen, if you're a new fan or not even a fan yet, and you're getting drawn in, but you don't want to jump on the bandwagon, jump on the bandwagon. It's so much fun. Jump on right now. Don't wait. It's okay. Just jump in, have fun with it.
We'll welcome you with open arms.
Yes, we will. And don't watch it alone. Grab a few buddies, grab your spouse, grab your kids, go out to a bar, go to a watch party, have fun with it. And remember that this life is not, in the U.S. soccer team, it's not about perfection, it's about direction. It's about taking the next right step and just improving and enjoying the life that God has given us. And soccer is one of those great gifts, so enjoy it. Blake, thank you, my friend. We will look forward to talking to you soon.
So glad to be here. Thank you.